All right, so I would like to discuss this ongoing dispute that's gotten pretty nasty between Representatives Ilhan Omar and Lauren Boebert. But before doing so, I want to show you this video that essentially sparked this whole thing of Lauren Boebert going on about a fabricated story about her running into Ilhan Omar. Take a look at this video.
Actually, I have an Ilhan story for you. So, the other night on the House floor was not my first Jihad Squad moment. So, I was getting into an elevator with one of my staffers. And he and I we're leaving the Capitol, we're going back to my office, and we get in the elevator, and I see a Capitol police officer running hurriedly to the elevator. I see fret all over his face, and he's reaching, and I'm like, what? The door's shutting. Like, I can't open it. Like, what's happening? I look to my left, and there she is, Ilhan Omar. Oops. And I said, well, she doesn't have a backpack. We should be fine. So we only had one floor to go, and I was like, do I say it? Do I not? I looked over, and I said, oh, look, the Jihad Squad decided to show up for work today. Don't worry, it's just her staffers on Twitter that talk for her. She's not tough in person. She doesn't, yes. So, there's a little bit of interactions with these folks there.
Okay, so what do I make of that upon seeing it for the first time? It's typical Republican bullshit. Typical right-wing politicians trying to puff their chest out and be tough and lying while doing so. So Ilhan Omar came out shortly after this video was released, and she had this to say. Fact, this buffoon looks down when she sees me at the Capitol. This whole story is made up. Sad she thinks bigotry gets her clout. That's the first part of a tweet that she tweeted out in response to that. The second part of the tweet is, anti-Muslim bigotry isn't funny and shouldn't be normalized. Congress can't be a place where hateful and dangerous Muslim tropes get no condemnation. Now, I think that was a sound rebuttal. I think that it could have been left right there. But of course, it got proliferated and we are where we're at now. So apparently yesterday, as of Monday, today is Tuesday, they were on a phone call, or, they got in contact with each other. And apparently Ilhan Omar wanted a more public apology because that video went very public, went viral on social media. And apparently Lauren Boebert was staunch in her defense of not offering that public apology. And she kind of just retreated back to more they would call, I guess, Islamophobia, comparing them to terrorists and what have you. Of course, that entire story in that video, as fabricated as it was entirely derogatory and meaningless, and, you shouldn't do that. But to Ilhan, I have this to say. You can't reason with somebody that's unreasonable, okay? And that's entirely what this woman, Miss Lauren, is. She's unreasonable. She's an unreasonable character. You can't take her serious. And she's come out and said, as a result, she's kind of going on the offense here. She's pulling a Donald Trump, never on the defensive, always on the offensive. And she's calling out Ilhan Omar for being anti-American, like a terrorist sympathizer. I mean, really going at it in terms of the culture war bullshit. And, she's one of these right-wingers that claim to be America first. Well, that's false. You can't be America first and oppose universal health care. You can't be America first and oppose unions. You can't be America first and oppose higher wages. You can't be America first and oppose bringing American manufacturing back to America. You can't be America first and oppose ending the wars where we send our troops to go and die overseas for meaningless reasons. You can't be America first and be opposed to the things I just named out and be in favor of the absolute abhorrent things that she's in favor in. So if I'm Ilhan Omar, I'll just make that argument and leave it be. But, it really tells you something about American politics when our politicians, this is the biggest story. This is what they're doing. Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene, the insane, fanatical, hyperbolic Republican in the House, recently brought up legislation to give the Rittenhouse kid like a Medal of Freedom, of Honor or something. I mean, it's theatrics. It's mind-blowing when you think about it. We're in a pandemic where tens of millions of people are still struggling. Need I remind you, we're still in a pandemic. This isn't over. And then there's this new variant. I mean, But this is what the discourse is. I mean, look, I don't expect Lauren Boebert to come out for the people and introduce legislation for the people. But I do expect Ilhan Omar to call on Joe Biden alongside the other Justice Democrats to whip out that executive order pen and start doing some good things for the American people, such as legalizing marijuana, such as getting rid of student loan debt, such as ending some of the other occupations that we have currently ongoing. I mean, there's an endless slew of things that he could do as a president that he's simply not doing. And they're putting no pressure on him whatsoever. But instead, let's fight with Lauren Boebert. I mean, complete waste of time. Absolutely ridiculous. I think that first response was enough. As I said, you can't reason with these characters. They're insane. They're not intelligent. Nothing about them is reasonable. You can't reason with somebody that's unreasonable. And I also want to respond to this argument that you'll see in court media. They like to refer to Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like Matt Gaetz as the far right wing of the Republican Party. Let me put something in perspective for you. There is no far right wing of the Republican Party. The Republican Party as a whole is far right. The Democrats are moderately right. The Overton window in America has been shifted so far to the right that we think something as simple as universal health care, which every other rich country has, is like Marxist or just radical left. I mean, these are basic things. Things like unionization, they think is somehow insanely left. These are simple characteristics of a system that works for the people that it should. But the Overton window in America has been shifted so far to the right. There's apparently a right wing of the Republican Party. No, they're insanely far right as a party. On the economics, they all believe in the same thing. They're just different in terms of their characteristics. Who lashes out on Twitter? Who doesn't? Who positions themselves to give out this false sense of gravitas? I mean, that's the only difference here. Okay, but anyway. This is a dispute that I wanted to give a little bit of light to because, I wanted to talk about it because it's incredibly amazing that with all the problems that's going on right now in this country, this is what our politicians are doing, fighting amongst themselves over bullshit. Needless to say, this should stop. Ilhan Omar needs to do her job as she was sent there to do and fight for the people and do it correctly and strongly. But needless to say, I don't think that will happen, as it hasn't happened since we've been watching essentially all these left Congress people get elected, and they'll continue to fail and the country will continue to suffer. I don't mean to sound nihilistic here. I'm honestly not trying to, just being realistic here. But hopefully we see some change, but something tells me we won't in the immediate future at the very least.